Hello my students, I told you that I will come back to you with the details of three persons who contributed largely to the behavioral ecology or ethology. Out of these three persons, the first person is the Nico Tinbergen. Nico Tinbergen played a crucial role in the development of ethology. He was born in The Hague, Netherlands on 15th April 1907. In 1925, encouraged by his biology teacher, he went on a 3-month trip to an ornithological field station in observing nature and laid the foundations for behavioral research on the herring gull, which would remain as a source of fascination throughout his life. The spectacular bird migration, extensive sand dune complexes, and herds of elk changed his mind, and he decided to study biology at Leiden University. This is one of the great universities of that time. Later, he joined as an assistant in the zoology department, Leiden University. Working closely with his students, he continued his research on the beowulf, the herring gull, and several other animal species. He set a new line of research on stickleback to study animal behavior. This is a small fish found in the mouth of rivers. He also did his PhD work on beowulf, on how does this digger wasp find its way back to its nest. It was a very interesting experiment. What he did, he arranged some pine cones around the nest of a digger wasp. Then he observed that this digger wasp visit without any difficulty the nest, even though the pine cones are arranged around it. In second observation, he found that if this cone arrangement is shifted from the nest to nearby places, the digger wasp can easily visit it, whereas the nest is not there. So it prompted him to think about what actually attracted the digger wasp to visit the nest or visit the place without the nest. Then under third observation, he reoriented the pine cones. You can see here, now it is not in circular form, but in a place nearby the nest, he arranged some other materials which are in a circular form. Then he found that the digger wasp is actually visiting that place which is in a circular form. So it is actually the orientation of some visible materials which attract the digger wasp towards the nest than some other factors. This was one of the very interesting experiment, although it was challenged by the many people, but later it was established that digger wasp can easily identify the orientation of materials around its nest. So this is about the Nico Tinbergen. The next class we will study Carl von Fritsch, the another very interesting person who contributed to animal behavior. Another person who got the Nobel Prize is Carl von Fritsch. He was born on November 20, 1886 in Vienna, at that time the capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He got the Nobel Prize for deciphering the language of bees. He first informed that bees can communicate to their peers through some dances. He wrote a very small book, Language of Bees, an Animal Psychological Study. This book is only 186 pages, but it was a very popular book at that time. And in this book, he told a story of dances of bees. This book described the story of bees, how far the nectar is located, that was communicated to the peers by the bee who found that location. He described two types of dances. One, round dance, that causes bees to look for food at a short distance, up to about 50 meters from the hive. And another, the waggle dance, that tells the bees, yes, you can see this waggle dance, tells the bees the direction and distance to fly to find more distant food sources. In case of round dance, you can see, just let me tell you and show you the circle. In case of round dances, it is just like 8 in shape, and this 8 is fuse type, means the two circles of the 8 is fuse type. And in case of waggle dance, it is in a pattern type. You can find 3 patterns, 1, 2 and 3. And the third pattern, you can see there is an angle which is on the direction of light, and second is on the direction of food, and this is creating 30-degree angle. This is very typical, and a bee can understand the direction of the food from this angle. Here you can see the 8 structure. The bee is moving like 8, and these are the angles. Here you get a detail of structure and a pattern. This is the line of the light, and this is the line of the source of the food, and this is the angle 30 degree, and these are the bee watching the dance. Once the dance is completed, the bees will follow this route to find the source of the food. And this is how the story of the bee communicating to the peers. This is waggle dance. The third person who got Nobel Prize in 1973 for animal behavior is Konrad Lorenz. Konrad Lorenz in 1935 investigated the mechanisms of imprinting, or a phenomenon which is very common in all organisms, where some species of animals form an attachment for the first large moving object that they meet. Lorenz graduated from the University of Vienna as a Doctor of Medicine in 1928 and was appointed an assistant professor at the Institute of Anatomy until 1935. He also began studying zoology, in which he was awarded a PhD degree in 1933 by the same university. You can see in the picture that Dr. Lorenz is working with goslings in a field. Actually, the goslings are accepting him as a parent, which is an outcome of his experiment imprinting. To experiment, he took a large class of goose eggs and kept them until they were about to hatch out. So here, half of the eggs were then placed under a goose mother, while Lorenz kept the other half hatched in an incubator. with Lorentz making sure he was the first moving object the newly hatched gosling encountered. Later, he replaced himself with a ball. Then he observed that the goslings were following the ball. So it was confirmed that the goslings, after hatching out, they observe the first moving object, whether it is their mother, a human being, or a ball, or anything. They consider it as their parent. So this is called imprinting. It means that particular signal or particular response is imprinted in their gene or behavior, which is to be responded only when there is a moving object they first see after hatchling. Here you can see after hatching this imprinting to human, the human moving object they have seen. So imprinting, like some learning, for example, learning a song, involves a sensitive period or critical period during which the young animal must be exposed to a model. This is very crucial period, sensitive period or critical period. The learning that occurs at later time may not affect behavior if this period is over. So that particular period, the learning or the response which is coming under imprinting is exhibited. Otherwise, once the critical period is over, that behavior is not repeated.